Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you may happen to be. You have tuned into the Talk About Your Community show, and I'm really glad that you've decided to take a little time on your Friday to tune in and say hello. Please take an opportunity in the chat to check in, tell us where you're from, tell us what's on your mind today about community building or where you are maybe in your job search if you're a community creator or builder who is on the hunt for something new. I am here in the first week of spring in Wisconsin. Things are starting to come alive again. The sun is shining. The birds are starting to sing again, which is great. And I've got one of my favorite people in the world who's going to be on the show here today, Adrian Speyer, the author of The Accidental Community Manager. He's come on the show a couple of times in the past. We usually find lots of really cool things to talk about. And today we set as really kind of a nominal topic, the question of community or marketing, or community versus marketing, or is community the new marketing? Really kind of an open-ended topic, but it's certainly an important one for organizations and enterprises, and looking forward to having him on the show. Just a few bits of housekeeping before we get started. If you haven't already, please like or follow the Clocktower Advisors company page. And we also have a YouTube channel for Clocktower Advisors, and trying to get us up to 100 subscribers. We're getting closer to that every week, and really appreciate everybody's support and likes and comments. If you're able to get out there, we try to answer everybody who comes out there. And wanted to give a quick shout out as thank you, as always, to my engineer, Kalisa, who is incredible and does wonderful work. And she's got a new member on her team, Holly, who's also going to be working with me going forward here. I did want to mention a couple of quick congratulations here as I bring Adrian onto the stream with me here. Hey, Adrian, how are you, sir?
I am well. Yourself?
Doing terrific, man. I've got spring fever, I think. So I'm looking forward to being out and about in the world, planting my garden and being outdoors on the beach. Always a good time this time of year.
I love it.
I wanted, before we got started, I wanted to say just some quick congratulations. I mean, I know there are a lot of people that are maybe finding new homes for themselves, in their job searches. But I heard this week, Carolyn Zick has gotten a great new opportunity position that she's going to be starting with. Not full time, but it's going to be like I think a 12-month retainer, that she's going to be on for her work. And then also Matthias Vleeming has taken a new role as well. So as a full-time person, but he's going to still be doing consulting work in the community space. So congrats to those guys. I don't know, Adrian, if there's some other folks that you've heard about that.
Well, I mean, I've heard, people tell me all kinds of things, but I don't know what I'm allowed to publicly tell. That's the problem, right? So I kind of just wait. I wait back, and I think some of them might even be watching the stream at this point, or maybe later. But it's not for me to announce their news. I'll leave it for them when they put it on LinkedIn. I'm still looking for work, though.
Nice.
for now. But hey, who knows? I mean,
hopefully not for much longer, right?
No, I don't think for much longer. It's one of those things. I was talking to a friend about this the other day. It's, I spent my first 10 years of my career, or actually first 14 years of my career in the semiconductor industry. And I can't say that I've seen a lot of those folks kind of moving. It's been pretty stable. They haven't, there's not, I would say that almost half of all my connections on LinkedIn are in the semiconductor industry. It's been really stable. But on the tech side, community side, boy, it's been, but what I've noticed is there's been a lot more people announcing that they found jobs. So that's giving me hope that, spring is here. And good times are ahead. So
I'm glad to hear that news. It's very welcome. And I find, like, on the consulting front, there's more organizations that are talking to me now, and there are some opportunities and prospects that are showing up that weren't before. So
I think there was some fear, and we all had a bit of a black swan event there with SVB, but I think we've kind of made it through, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. So totally.
Hey, just a couple of shout outs for people that have tuned in on the channel here. Nikki, hello, wonderful to see you as always. Peter, my friend, good to see you too. Harry, welcome. Glad to have you here. Rob in the UK, great to see you, Rob. Michelle Goodall, Michelle from Guild, great to see you. So awesome to see you guys on here today. this is a kind of a free for all for Adrian and I. So feel free.
Well, I mean, honestly, what's happening is they're just kind of eavesdropping on what would normally be just a call that you and I would have that would go endlessly on, and then you'd say, "Adrian, I have to get off the phone. I have a." And
I've never said that to you, man. No.
or I have to say it. I just, we always have good times talking about the great issues, and so it usually ends up, I know with you, it's kind of like, hey, well, if you have a free spot and you want to chat, I'm always happy to be down with it. And I think, I mean, the topic of marketing has come up quite a bit. I guess there was like, I've seen so many people talking about, like Mark Schaefer's book where he was talking about like marketing as the last, or community is the last great marketing strategy. And, then there's, obviously there's always these interesting interviews that I've been on where people are like, well, tell me, how do you see community and marketing engaging? And, like some kind of weird tribal dance that's going to happen, like war paint, and people are going to start like beating each other up for, I don't know what they're expecting in that. And then, obviously I've talked with some community people that they get nervous, like, oh, the marketing people want to come in, ruin the community. Right. I'm keeping them out completely. I don't want them dealing with it. And I just find it all funny, to be honest. And I had an opportunity to do, be on a marketing team and work with marketing and be in marketing and all the thought. So I figured, hey, I had it was funny actually, because I think when we even started talking about this, you're like, well, we're on the same page. So there's not even a difficulty of discussion, because it's, let's get it out of the way. It's community and marketing working together.
Right. I mean, it's, but, I think sometimes there's a perception of conflict in some organizations that I've gone into. But I think largely the goals are compatible. You want more loyal customers. You want them to be highly engaged with the brand. You want them to be buying more, and those are things that, communities are conducive to, as long as you're not selling directly or really strongly, within the community space. Like,
see, and this is the so here's where we get the spicy controversial bit that I'll throw at you. And I'm probably going to get like eggs thrown at me and bricks or tomatoes or whatever.
Virtual eggs. Here we go.
Yeah. I don't see anything wrong with selling in the community. I just think it's about how it's done. And if you give me a moment, I'll explain. So here's what I think. If someone is in I'll take a random, I don't want to use a brand that's known. So we'll call it Acme Computers. So Acme Computers has a community, and, they have a section of their area for laptops, for example. So you're in the community, you're looking at laptops, and you're engaged in that thing. And as many people know, I'm a data person who loves data. So there's a lot of ways that you can look at activity and behavior that people are doing. So let's say that you recognize that person is on your community, they have spent time looking at new models of community, new models of laptops. Is it wrong to have a banner ad on the side that says, hey, community, there's a guide on how to choose the right laptop? Like a banner ad that literally leads to a lead page with a form that goes into marketing and becomes a lead. I personally don't see anything wrong with that. What I have gross feelings about is if it's like someone's asking a question about a laptop, and then someone jumps in from the sales team and says, hi, I see you're looking for a laptop.
Yeah.
It's not looking for your opinion. I'm looking for the community experience to share. I've seen this happen a lot. Obviously, I was in the platform space for a very long time, and people will tell you, I think that I was probably one of the more laid back individuals about jumping in, but there are a lot of other platforms that were very eager to jump in and say, use our software. It's like they're asking other community people about how it is to use X, Y, or Z platform. They're not looking for the vendor to be there and offer their opinion, because it's going to be biased.
Yeah.
So the only time I would be is I'm here if you have questions, but really it's about that conversation. So selling in community is not a bad thing. It's the approach that
it's all approach. It's all approach, because I kind of relate to this in terms of like looking at like some of the stuff that happens in LinkedIn, some of the shenanigans that you get in terms of the daily spammy messages that I call them pitch slaps, right? That it's like the first message I get from you is buy my software, or we're an offshoring company, we'll build mobile apps for you. I'm like, you don't even know me, and like we haven't even met each other, and you're already trying to sell to me. I'm getting pitched personally, and on my LinkedIn it says open to work. Like I'm unemployed, and you're trying to pitch me services, and it's like,
Did you even take 3 seconds to look? Like, I'm looking for work and you're asking me to buy something from you.
So right? I think it's that worry about that tone deaf attempt to aggressively sell, within the space. And I think that's really all about sort of, as a community, as a community manager, the community professional that's in place there, educating the marketing sales teams about like, what's the tone, within the space, what's okay, what's not okay, like those, we're talking about breaches of etiquette, not necessarily breaches of community guidelines.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this before, I think. I think the important thing is looking to create guidelines internally so that people know, because what worries me are people that put that hard stop on saying, no, you cannot talk to any community members, or no, we don't want you, doing that kind of thing. That's kind of where I have the issue, because I think that you're doing a disservice in the sense that marketing usually has budget. Marketing is usually the one that can help you with promotions. Marketing is the one that can help you with marketing automation data. Marketing is the one that can get you access to the data analytics, or, and if you're already starting an adversarial relationship of saying, no, I'm not going to help you, and then I want stuff from you, it doesn't work. So, I think that's why, even, when I was at Vanilla in our success community, we had an internal guideline of like our expectation of tone and way people chatted, and how our like if a salesperson engaged in any type of upgrade or discussion that wasn't appropriate, it was removed. And I would just say, look, like, these are the guidelines. I would remind them, that this is how, we always have to be thinking about providing value. And so the same thing with advertisement. There's a proper way. You're not just throwing any ad in there. The thought is,
there's some targeting involved.
Well, there's targeting, there's intelligence that's in, if someone's in a specific category, or, looking at, that's the kind of thing that concerns me.
Yeah. Peter kind of raises a point here. How many people already own the laptop and want support, not to be upsold on something they already own? Again, I think that's sort of the nuance of the messaging, right? That's there. There's got to be some way to kind of read read who is an appropriate lead, for something like that.
Well, Peter may have missed what I was saying, that, with data, you can see that they looked at the pricing page. So I'm saying they've actively have been shopping on your website. If the data has been put in, I think this is one of the things that I've come to notice a bit more, is because, there are a lot of folks who are in the community space that may have not been exposed to some of the, if you've been in marketing and doing marketing for a long time, there are things that you'll be exposed to that you may not know, or not even know to ask about. And so within marketing, like Todd and I, the other day, we chatted about HubSpot, and we went on a deep dive of all the little things. For example, within HubSpot, you can fire an event on activity that people are doing in your community. You can look at the pages, the categories that people are visiting in. And if you build it and HubSpot has these modules that you can, basically, when people are on a certain list, you can put them in a sidebar of a community, depending on the community platform, but it would change the ad that people are, or rather the offer that people are seeing. So you can have a generic one that's just kind of like, hey, check out this really cool YouTube page, but then it could flip right away if it's someone who is actively engaged in signals that are buying signals and things of this nature. Like I don't, something I'm going to be releasing later today about, I don't know where this conversation about talking about ROI became dirty when it came to community. I don't know when it happened, but it's actually doing a really big disservice, from the fact that I think the challenge has been is there's a misunderstanding of what ROI as a word means. It's not about a community member leads to sale. They're all the things that go around it that have return on investment of putting time of people involved, like someone writing a nice review about a company on G2, or, recommending something to a friend, or, renewing their contract.
There's a continuum of what equals a return, what's that? And it's a conversation I have with customers a lot, where it's, what does that mean to you? Maybe it means like cutting down on the number of tickets. Maybe it means, like you said, like writing a great review. Maybe it means an NPS score. Like, it just depends on the leadership team and sort of what they mean. It doesn't always lead back to hard dollars, or even a correlation with hard.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the sideline that we went down and caused kind of a big, the discussion that's happening for whatever reason. So I hear this all the time, like, oh, you can't have ROI in a community for 6 months. I will fight to the death on that, saying that you can have ROI from day one. Because the moment that you have a happy customer that says, oh my God, the company created the space for me to connect with other people, you've created ROI. You've created ROI. Like, it's the return on investment, because now you have happy customers that have a voice to connect and chat with people. So I just think it's just a misunderstanding of now, the question, because how do you calculate that? Well, I mean, there is how do you measure happiness? Well, there are ways to look at that, because if people feel good about a product and are, you have to look at the corollary things, obviously, like, they renew, did they tell other people? There's ways to measure those things and assign dollars, like what a cost of acquisition is, what's the cost of losing a customer or keeping a customer. I mean, there's all kinds of calculations that have to be done. The challenge, I guess, I find is that community folks are kind of like, oh, I don't know anything about this, and I don't know, so therefore I'm not going to deal with it. And so my argument is, I'm not asking community professionals to become like data wizards or master survey makers or things of this nature, but it ties back to our topic of marketing, is that your marketing team, someone on the marketing team is measuring these things. Because if they're not, like, you probably shouldn't even be working there, because they're going to go bankrupt, because someone has to be measuring these things. They have to be looking at activities of, like, what their paid ads are doing, and hopefully you have the analytics. Like, Todd, you wouldn't be amazed at how many times I'll talk to someone like, oh yeah, we didn't install like, we've got Marketo, but we just don't install it in our community. Or,
oh, dude, yeah.
Like, it happens way too much.
There's a lot of organizations, right?
No, but it's like, I don't understand why the company doesn't see the value of the work that I'm doing. Well, they can't see it, right? Because it's not in there. Because what happens in Marketo and Pardot and all these, they have these pipelines, essentially, that they look at all the activities that happen, and the community ends up this black hole that they don't know that someone has spent time in the community, that it was an influencer towards purchase. So there's no way to report that up. And I mean, I'm kind of advocating that if you're in a meeting and someone says, oh, our revenue was X, or leads was this, or NPS was that, the question should be, can we split that out in, can you split that out in the community cohort? Can I see what the differences were? And Nikki makes a good point. Like, we need to start being more data curious. That's really what I'm advocating for. I'm not looking for people to become data analysts, although, hey, there are a lot of great, I honestly am a big advocate that people learn how to fish and learn that stuff. But I know that there's a lot of work involved, and people that are new, like, I was just talking with someone yesterday that they're brand new to the community space. They don't know that there's communities to connect with folks and things of that nature. So they got to get their basics done before they start running.
So for those of you who just joined, we're talking about community and marketing, and sort of the relationship between the two that is sometimes sort of perceived as contentious. So one of the things that you and Nikki have kind of brought up is that whole idea that community needs to be a little bit more data curious. Does marketing need to be a little more community curious? Have you kind of found that that's sort of a world like, hey, we're not touching that. We're the marketing team. We don't really care what's going on in that space.
So I think the biggest issue that in my experience is that the marketers think they understand community, but they don't. And so it's on us to kind of educate them, because they think community means TikTok and Facebook and Twitter and some influencer. Oh, that's community.
Or in the words of John Summers, I don't manage your apartment complex.
Yeah. Right? I mean, you'd hope if you're working on a marketing team and they've got a community person, they kind of have an idea, but it's kind of like, oh, like, I think they almost, the best way to think of it is look at, what's that? It's on Apple.
Ted Lasso.
No, it's the other one. It's the video game series.
I don't know that one.
Oh, geez. Someone help me out in the chat. You know which one.
The chat will know.
Yeah, they're building a video game. Anyways, they have a community manager in there. It's kind of like this archetype of, like, she's just sitting there all happy, like, I'm talking to the users. And it's like, you're sitting there going like, okay, Jesus, I hope that's not how we're perceived. But I guess in some instances we are. So,
Peter makes the point. It doesn't include it does include social, but it's not limited to
Yeah, I think that I think Peter's right. I mean, I think what I'm not explaining well, or I've quickly shortcutted because some of the audience here knows what I mean, is that I'm talking about people that are just saying, oh, like people following our TikTok account, our community. And if you're not actually having an engagement, if there's not a conversation, a sharing aspect of an actual engagement with the community, and that's not community. That's just that's another broadcast channel.
Right. Right.
And I think that's it. Mythic Quest. Thank you, Peter.
So I wonder if sort of the direction, one of the actionable things, out of this conversation between you and I is, if you're in an organization, there's a marketing team, maybe they haven't gotten what community's been about, and you're not data curious enough to kind of find out what's happening on the marketing side of the house. How often do you have, a coming together to share that information? Do you have, if that relationship has not been where it needs to be, like what can you do to address that with them? How do you make sort of the overture to say, like, hey, we want to be a little bit more engaged. We want to be a little more embedded with what marketing is doing. And I feel like sometimes a lot of the trust, from the community side, is the trust issues from the community side is more like a worry of, are you guys being lazy marketers? Or are you going to try to, sell without segmenting, within the community? Because we're very protective of the people that we're providing this safe space for. That's our definition, I think, of a lot of the community experiences we're creating.
Well, I think the last data I think I ended up reading was 35% of community professionals report into marketing. So I think by nature, they're already kind of in the mix, or would be part of that, part of that conversation, right? Like would be like for myself, like I've reported into marketing, and I would be part of our planning sessions and our town halls and our quarterlies and our offsites. And so that have that participation, but I've also inserted myself into other groups where, in a polite way, I mean, like our customer success team, where I would just say, hey, I would love to, be part of the customer success and kind of talk about, how I can help and how you can help and what are you seeing and how can we create good content. And I think that you have to really gauge how your organization is and also the size of your organization. Obviously when we were smaller, we were able to have like regular, chats on the go. And as you get bigger, obviously it's more like, well, we have these defined quarterly, portions. But I think it's really important, as much as you can, to carve out a portion of talking about what the community does and how you can work together. But I think it's also important to understand who your audience is as well. I think that one of the mistakes I see a lot of folks do is they'll report their health metrics, their community health metrics, to marketing people, and
they don't care.
They don't care.
Right. Like I care like how healthy my community is, but they're caring about leads or people that are converting in some way.
Someone that created something really cool in the community, like hey, this would be a great case study. Like here's examples that we can bring forward that or thinking of how marketing can support you and what you can bring in return. So like, hey, like I would love to encourage more of these stories. Could marketing maybe assist me with some assets, or is there room in the budget for some swag, or can we think bigger? Like let's do like, I don't know, an anniversary or a party or I think that's the thing. It's that ethical. I think Peter's even taking the word, as I was saying, like ethical, vital internal relationship, having that transparency in that conversation. And so if you're not part of the marketing team, I think it's important that conversation happens, like, even from a data perspective. I mean, that's why I'm always a bit advocate of people tracking across. It's like, well, how do people find your brand? Like if the entrance of the community, or the entrance to the understanding of your digital brand, is the community, well, then marketing wants to put on a good impression, right? So there may be aspects of that they want to assist and help with and be part of that. And then, there's also just some thoughts about how the progress goes. I mean, like I said, I'm not looking for folks to become like instantaneous Marketo or HubSpot experts, but like you and I talked for, I don't know, what was it, 15 minutes? And I showed you a whole bunch of stuff, and you're like, okay, this opens ideas that I now have, that I can think about it. And then let's say if I was working for you or with you, then it would be like, okay, like here are some ideas, Adrian, like how can I implement it? Like that's the whole, and to be honest, like any marketer, it loves challenges and being creative and doing new things, because otherwise it just gets boring. You're doing the same thing all the time, right?
Right,
Like,
right. We all need to like play at the edges to find out new things that we're interested in that we want to do. I think that's just good career management for ourselves. Really neat. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention. So Michelle Goodall, she had to drop off for a minute, but I was a contributor to a guide that the Guild created called community-based marketing best practices. It's a fun download. I think there's some useful, actionable stuff in there. So I'll just give them a quick plug for the.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, it's a great little thing. I know that they're I guess their branded idea around community-based marketing, but it's all ends up being the same. I always find it weird. Like there's like people first marketing, and so someone else saying, well, I mean, technically that's community marketing too, right? So
yeah, well, it's interesting. So on Clocktower, I invited like a panel of colleagues, people that you and I know really well,
right,
to weigh in on a couple of different issues. And one of the questions that I asked was actually prompted by Michelle's and the Guild's work around community-based marketing. I said, is community-based marketing like a new thing for 2023? And like the reactions I got were various. Like they were like, well, it's always been a part of community. Community is marketing, marketing is community. Like these things are not at odds with each other. Or like I don't see it as like a thing that's like becoming it. But but the relationship is sometimes a little bit fraught, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think in a funny way, community has a marketing problem.
I love that. That's interesting.
I mean, that's the challenge. I mean, I know that as a job seeker, talking with other folks too, like we just, there's a misunderstanding of what a community builder does and what that role includes and what that entails. Or, I've seen some like crazy job descriptions that, want you to do everything from video editing to social media to, I mean, literally like everything under the gun, and build a community and do events. And, it's like this endless list of like everything in marketing that is like people first or people focused. It's like the community person will end up doing. So right. I kind of find it funny. And I guess what I mean about community has a marketing problem is that everyone's trying to figure out the right way to communicate it outside the bubble. So I think within the bubble of community folks, and what I mean about community folks, people that are building community we have like a lingua franca. We may have like some differences on the edges of things, but anyone from the outside is really still confused about
very much
what this is completely. Right. And so the challenge has been, I think as an industry, we've been trying to find the way to talk about what we do in a way that other departments can kind of wrap their head around it and figure out, okay, how does that work? Yeah. Like how does community fit into the whole thing? And part of that challenge is actually something that Peter just said, is I would debate that to the death with math, is because community is seen as a cost center. And it is because unfortunately, I was actually talking with someone the other day, they never do the calculation on the ROI. So they never prove that it's actually not a cost center. We're actually making money for the company. We're actually keeping people engaged and happy. And I recently went through a particular episode with, like I said, chatting with someone. They're like, oh, I didn't bother about doing the ROI. And then it kind of bit me in the butt because, when they're looking to cut, they were like, well, we got to get rid of you. But they were then telling me about all the things that they were doing that was bringing revenue to the company. But it kind of get all lost in the, because I always feel like communities like that, we're like that invisible kind of glue that kind of captures things that, this customer seems to be unhappy because they're writing like some stuff in the community. I'm going to contact customer success and, maybe we can call the customer and try to, save them or find out what's going on. Or
I mean, like every complaint in the community, that's somebody who cared enough to jump in and say something about a product or service that you can fix that. That's saving you money. That like you being able to correct that or address that or even just make that particular customer happy, with what they're is.
Yeah. Actually, I'd say this, there's a lottery that's up here this weekend, $50 million. I'm really hoping that I win.
Do it.
Because I will fix this problem for the industry. Or if there's like a VC that wants to give me a whole bunch of money, like there is a way to fix this. I worked at an analytics company. I know some people have tried or they're working on it, but I mean, there's some very specific things that are that can be done today, even actually with Google Analytics and just any other, it's just about discipline and measurement. And, I had that newsletter about talking about user IDs and things like people are just not aware that there are. And so I think that's why community gets thrown in up. Oh, it's expensive. We have this, platform and we have all these people, and because they're not looking at, well, if you removed it. And I think Richard Millington did something where he like turned off a community, right? And they saw what the impact was. Like, that's the thing. It's not a cost center. It's a revenue generator. It's just, we just have done a poor job of telling that story and measuring it collectively. I mean, I'm blaming platform vendors and community professionals just the same, because it's
sure. So there's two other topics that I think are probably going to take us across the rest of our time here that I think will be interesting. One was something that was brought up earlier in the talk. I'm wondering if that was Darren that jumped in on this, because I can't actually see on StreamYard who it is, just as LinkedIn user. It's probably Darren. I know he's shown up as anonymous before. But is the chief community officer the new chief marketing officer? Absolutely love to watch the opposite happen. That was kind of an interesting remark, but curious what your take is on that. And then the other topic, I'm just kind of lay these out quickly so we can be sure to hit on them, is do you ever feel that there's some kind of disconnect sometimes between community and marketing, because marketing will often tend to be like their major business objectives tend to be based on acquisition of customers rather than retention and loyalty and long-term life cycle of those customers. I sometimes find that to be a little bit of a disparity as well.
You've absolutely teed me up for an answer on this question with, by your prior thing. I totally don't see them at all. And really, in a perfect world, to me, it's chief customer officer or chief experience officer is really the pillar of where community belongs, because the marketing pie, while there is some lip service in some cases, but to being fair as well, the new marketing, so to speak, has gone through a lot of the transitions that community has, in the sense that maybe 20-30 years ago we wouldn't talk about community operations or community content people or community marketing folks and what have you. So I mean, there is a stream within the marketing field called customer marketing, and that their focus is marketing to customers and keeping them happy and having those communications and having that engagement. So yeah, you're right. Like, the traditional marketing monolith would be about leads and acquisition, but then the customer marketing people are all focused on case studies and getting referrals and people being happy and working close with sales to enable that kind of content and working with customer success. So depending on the organization, and in some weird companies, there's dotted lines into the customer organization. So obviously at the bigger companies that they need to have a couple of bits in there. Madhu's making me laugh.
Oh, that's great. And my apologies. That's my good friend Ilker, who was jumping in on that. So he was our anonymous user.
No, I mean, I think Ilker's always the anonymous one. I kind of just assumed it, but I thought you had like insider knowledge. But
no.
Yeah, I mean, I think the chief customer officer, chief experience officer is where I would lead to naturally put community. And I don't know if chief community officer will. I mean, I think I did some research the other day. We were chatting about, like, there's like 800 chief community officers in the world, and there's like 500,000 chief marketing officers. So
and I find that number to be high, actually. Like I've run across very few chief community officers in the wild.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you do a search on LinkedIn, it's kind of this weird thing, because I mean, even when I'm doing job searches, right, and I'm looking for like community jobs, I'm getting sent all kinds of wacky stuff that has nothing to do with community, and I'm kind of like, how did this even end up here? So like, let's say it's the rule of a quarter, like maybe there's 200 of them. And even that I think might be a bit high, because I'm sure there's folks that are just, probably like one person companies that are just like, I'm a chief community officer among other, it's like the word founder, right? Like you can put the word founder and you have a blog and I'm the founder of the blog. So, but I would say is like, we're much better to align ourselves with the customer experience and customer success folks. And I think that's, an interesting case study. I was thinking about it earlier this morning, is that, if you think about customer success in the way that it kind of blew up overnight and kind of overtook community, like, because I would say that they were kind of all on the same path. And at some point, customer success just like exploded. But they smartly tied themselves to this idea of keeping customers happy from leaving and retention. And, they've built out, various other ideas around it. But, I would argue that community is a big component of keeping people happy and engaged and wanting to do business with your company, and that people have good feelings towards your brand and building connection and things of this nature. So to me, the natural ally for us, we should ourselves should be talking about retention and happy customers and things of this nature, which I don't think we do enough of, to be honest. And I think if we align in that way, instead of saying, oh, community has no ROI for 6 months, or you can't measure it. Because I know eventually someone always will throw out the Gary V quote, like, can you measure your mother or something like that?
Well,
I think you can, because if you have a bad mother, like you're not going to eat, you're going to starve. You're probably
right. His latest version of that is, I think, what is the ROI of a basketball for you? Well, probably nothing, but for LeBron James, it's worth a lot. Right.
Yeah. The ROI of your mother. Right. That's his whole thing. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you had a really bad mother versus if you had a really supportive mother, you can measure it.
Totally.
Yeah. You'll have success. You'll go on to do great things, or you'll be spending a lot of money at the therapy office and talking about all the ways that your life got screwed up.
So one of the things that Nikki Thibodeau said earlier in the chat that I liked is she talked about it, the relationship with marketing being a delicate dance. I like the way that she put that. And I'm wondering the extent to which community professionals are taking that opportunity to actually do like a full stakeholder analysis of the different departments within their organization. Like, who are the big influencers? Who's got pull with the C-suite, or do you know like where they're oriented to? I think a lot of the things that we're talking about has to do with aligning to an understanding of what marketing is being measured for, and finding ways to relate how the community is driving value, for some of that as well, being able to communicate that well to that team. And if you're in a situation where maybe there's, a difficult personality at the head of the table for marketing, maybe there's some other people that you can form relationships on the side to kind of build that influence for yourself within that kind of team.
Yeah. And I know it's tangential to our conversation, but I would say having the allies on the customer side can always be of benefit, or sales, or other departments where you're saying, look, I mean, at the end of the day, we're here about servicing our customers and keeping them happy and creating a safe space. Like, it's kind of like that old lawyer joke, like, do you not want happy customers? Like,
no, I don't. No.
I mean, it's, do you want customers to feel bad about our brand and to go and say nasty things? Do you want them to go on Twitter and go on a rant and do some viral TikTok? Or would you rather that they come into a space here and have a conversation with us and then go and have such a great time, they go and put a positive TikTok out there and have that conversation and engagement? And
I mean, I think, making sure that the marketing team and other stakeholders internally, get that the reason to have that community is to have that safe space for people to air concerns and care, about your product or service or whatever you're doing.
And we don't need to get caught up in platforms. Like I talk about forums certainly, but it doesn't. I mean, it can happen on LinkedIn. It can happen on Twitter. It can. I mean, I think I always have to put an asterisk on social media only because there's so many people that don't get it, and they're doing a lot of shouting and not community building.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think social media is the mutant stepchild of communities. Communities.
Well, I'll give credit. Like, there's some really great. Like, if I don't know if Dan's probably not here, but if you check out like the Apollo LinkedIn account, I mean, those people are doing community building on LinkedIn. Like, they are doing a fantastic job. Sure. Like, I mean, they are. If someone said to me, like, how can I do community building? I would say, go follow Apollo and see how they're engaging their community and having fun with their brand and having conversations and building connection and sharing and at mentioning folks and having conversations in the comments and, doing it across also multiple forums. And I don't believe they even have a forum of their own, but they're out there in other communities that are related to Apollo and having those conversations. And I can't say they're not doing community building. Like just because they don't have a forum doesn't mean that they're not, or just because they're, you know.
Yeah. I don't get too hung up on the platforms. Like, I mean, you could build a community off of a good email list where people can, you know, like an old list serve or a Google group.
Yeah.
I mean, that can have a sense of community to it. I think a lot of time enterprises get too hung up on like doing the big investment in a big platform, you know, to make it work. Like, just talk to people, man. It's about the people, right? You know, at the end of it. So yeah, no, I appreciate your point of view on that, and I've increasingly thought about. I don't know if you saw Common Room did a piece of a research pretty recently, and of course, because of the nature of what they are as a measurement platform across multiple platforms, they were saying like on average, communities have like 3 to 5. They call them surfaces, but they mean channels where customers or prospects are interacting on a regular basis. So like the community is all of those, you know, but I again, like I keep thinking of those as like the social platforms are kind of the outposts, or if you think of it as like a Nautilus shell, they're the outer chambers, but we've kind of got the inner chamber where, you know, we control and we own that platform and we can have conversations within that. So and there's value to having that.
Well, I think of it like the spoken wheel model, because I mean, let's be honest, like how many communities are you really active in? Like, it's so hard. Like, I mean, maybe 3, 5, maybe max. I mean, it's really hard, right? But the thing is, like, if I'm on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, and like one of those communities shares something that's interesting, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that community. Let me go and, you know, check out what's going on. But I find like what I've noticed and what I find unfortunate is at some companies, there's these streams where the social media and marketing teams do not talk. And it's kind of like a weird thing going on where there's really great content being shared on social that would really do well in the community, or they're not really sending it back, or vice versa. And and they're missing the opportunity because there's this adversarial relationship, I guess, at the marketing thing that we were talking about too, that they're kind of like, well, you do your Facebook thing and I'll do my branded community thing. And it's like, well, both can coexist in a great way if we, you know, think about a more holistic campaign around that aspect, around it. But it's
peanut butter cup of goodness, right? So
well, I mean, there's so many great opportunities. I just find it so funny because like I either see it social and community being done by one person, or there's a social media person and there's a community person doing community building and events and, you know, maybe a branded spot, and they like the two are not on the same page, or they're not communicating, or there's kind of like almost not an antagonism, it's kind of the wrong word, but it's like they're misaligned, I guess, in some ways. And there's a lot more to be done together than there is separate, I just find.
Yeah, totally. Can you believe it, man? We're almost at 45 minutes here. The time flies by when we chat about this stuff, and I so appreciate your point of view and the work that you do. And I'm looking forward to hearing some good news about you. You know, coming up sometime soon here. I'll talk to you about that offline. But for those of you tuned in today, really grateful for you to do so. I encourage you, if you haven't already, to follow the YouTube channel for Clocktower Advisors to get updates and comment and like out there. So the entire back catalog of live streams lives out there. A little tougher to track down on LinkedIn for whatever reason. The way that LinkedIn is set up as a user experience makes it a little bit trickier. So I always encourage people to go out to the YouTube as well. But thanks so much for everybody in the chat. Like, I didn't get a chance to say hi to everybody. I know, Deb and Jamie and lots of friends are out there. So it's really wonderful to see you all. Really appreciated all the input. I will mention a couple of upcoming shows. April 14th is going to be our next session for Talk About Your Community. We'll have Carolyn Zick and John Summers of Communify on talking about measuring the health of your online community. So I think that's going to be a blast. Always love talking to those guys. We always have a lot to chat about. And then later in the month, I'm going to switch it up a little bit, do digital workplaces. I'm going to have Sean Winter, who is with Loomapps, which is an employee experience platform. He's going to be coming on talking about employee experience in the post-pandemic world. And brilliant guy. I think he was in Jive once upon a time, back in the the day. Like everybody has a tie back to Jive in some way. Anyways, looking forward to both of those. If you have a topic or you're interested in being on the show and want to talk about your community, would love to hear from you. Please drop me a line here on LinkedIn or wherever you happen to find me online. I'm pretty easy to locate. And for those of you who happen to be in the community consulting space, I'm just going to give a quick plug for the Community Consultants Collective that I and a number of other community professionals are active with. If you are a consultant in our space and you would like to talk to other people about your business setup and like how you run your business and ways to collaborate, we meet on a monthly basis. It's a fun, friendly group. It's free to join, and you can find out more about that by going to communityconsultants.life. The website is just up. Actually, Carolyn built the site and did a really nice job with it, and Deb is managing it. So, Adrian, again, awesome to see you, my friend. Thank you for making time to come on the show. As always, it's a fun conversation, and look forward to seeing all of you out there at the next Talk About Your Community. In the meantime, be good to yourselves. Take some time off this weekend because you're no good to anybody else if you're not good to yourself. And we will see you again soon. Take care, everybody.